Every Sunday, we have been talking about democracy on the ballot. We have been communicating issues that are happening in our community, information that we want you to have. Today, I want to share with you about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was recently gutted, specifically Section 5 in the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It was a case entitled Shelby County case is what it was called, the Shelby County case, wherein the Supreme Court, in a vote of 5 to 4, voted to gut Section 5. What is Section 5 of this very important piece of legislation? For 50 years, it was in place to protect people's right to vote. Section 5 specifically stated that states that had a history of racial discrimination had to go through pre-clearance if they were changing their laws or putting in new pieces of legislation, ordinance, whatever they want to call it in the states. And they had to be cleared by the government, by the Department of Justice. It had to be looked at to make sure that people are not being marginalized or voter suppression is not going forth. Because of certain individuals on the Supreme Court, they felt that there is no more discrimination. So therefore, there's no need for pre-clearance anymore. Because of this piece of legislation and those appointments on the Supreme Court, we have seen a deluge of new legislation in states that previously needed pre-clearance. Those states were Georgia and South Carolina and Alabama and Mississippi and Texas, southern states. The list goes on. And we've seen new legislation where you have only a few polling places in a black community, but you have a myriad of polling places in larger, wealthy communities. Just one example. Or another piece of legislation that specifically states that you cannot come near a polling place if you're not voting, that you can't pass out food and bring folding chairs to assist elders. Those are just some of the small ones that are completely outrageous. But one of the ones that is incredibly important, that is suppressing the vote, is around polling places in the South. Before the Supreme Court gutted the Section 5 of the 1965 Voting Rights Bill and Act, polling places within African American communities were abundant, and they had to be proportional to other communities. Now we see new tactics that are taking place so that you may have 2- and 3-hour lines in one community, and it may be a 15-minute line in another community. I bring all of this up to say this. The next president will appoint 46 federal judges. The next president may have the opportunity to appoint 126 federal judges over 4 years. These are lifetime appointments, and the possibility that the next president may have the opportunity to place 1 or possibly even 2 new people upon the Supreme Court, which would shift the balance on the Supreme Court. Now, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I am going to share with you how important it is to understand voting rights. I am going to tell you how important it is to know that you're not just voting for a personality. Do not vote for a personality. But you need to walk through policy and see how that policy affects your community. I told you I would give you 5 minutes. I'm done. If that's all I want to share with you, May God bless you. May God keep you. And make sure you're registered to vote, because this year we want to make sure that we are sharing with people democracy is on the ballot.